All right, we are back. For those that don't know, apparently Zoom cuts you off at 45 minutes now in the middle. So we had a cutoff and all edit the videos together, but something to think about in the future. Yeah, I think we were talking. I think we were talking about weight cutting. I think we said pretty much probably as much as what we're going to say there. I mean, I guess I would ask you for people that are fighting at any level, just if there's any tricks that you had to hydrating back to getting yourself healthier that you think helped you.
Well, so obviously cutting weight is really hard. And then, I didn't do much of this, but I'm sure there's probably some supplements you could take that would help your body absorb water quicker. But one thing that is important, a lot of people would, and I did this myself, you cut weight, you make weight, and then you figure, well, I cut X amount of water, that's this much in weight. So I'm going to drink 2 gallons of water tonight.
Yeah.
Well, you drink 2 gallons of water and your body is not rehydrated. Your body can only reabsorb water at a certain rate. And even though you're now peeing again, it doesn't mean you're hydrated. It just means your body is, that's what it can't hang on to any more than that. So one thing that I would say is important is continue drinking water at a steady rate all the way from the time your weigh-in is done until your fight the next day. A lot of people would drink a liter an hour or something like that and stay on that. You can guzzle all you want to start with to feel good, but that doesn't mean you're rehydrated. Continue drinking water all the way to your fight. And obviously things like Pedialyte and electrolytes and stuff like that help a lot too, but just don't think just because you guzzle a gallon of water and you go to the bathroom right away that you're done. And then all right, let's go to the bar and have a beer. That's not the way to do it.
Yeah, Pedialyte. I remember Pedialyte, learning that from the wrestlers, like in judo. Yeah. Man, it's like we thought we had this secret weapon because this is in early 90s, early to mid 90s.
Right.
But they know a little bit. Everybody knows that now, I guess. But speaking of that, what got you into fighting? What got you into martial arts? I mean, you say I want to be a fighter.
Oh, well, so I didn't really plan to be a fighter. I started doing martial arts when I was 12. My older brother saw a demo for a local club in the area, and so he started training. I just went with him one day and fell in love with it. And so I just trained constantly. I love martial arts, and this was 80, late 80s. So the height of the ninja days and the Black Belt magazine and all the American Ninja movies and stuff like that. So, everybody was obsessed with martial arts at the time, myself included. And so, I love martial arts. And then as I got a little older, it kind of started blending more into what modern MMA is. There's this thing called the Ultimate Fighting Championship, where 2 guys are going to fight until one of them dies. Obviously that wasn't it, but that's kind of what we all heard, right? So
yeah,
we're there's no rules. You can do whatever you want. I'm okay, this sounds like something I'd be interested in. So I started, I had a couple of fights. I wasn't doing anything in particular. I was working a regular job at a Little Caesars pizza place. And then I decided that I wanted to move to Iowa because I wanted to train with Pat Miletich. And so, I didn't really plan to be a professional fighter. I love to fight, but I just figured there wasn't a ton of money in the sport at that time. The UFC was still relatively new. When I fought Frank Shamrock, I think I got $2,500. So, we're not talking life-changing money here, So, I thought, well, I'll go to Iowa, pick up a job, train with Pat, do what I love to do. And then when I moved, the sport just exploded. There were fights everywhere. There were so many fights. I literally fought every weekend in 1999. I think that was the first year I was in Iowa. I literally fought every single weekend. I had and some of them, that's back when we did tournaments. So sometimes it'd be, I'd fight in an 8-man tournament Friday night, drive, 3 hours away to another show and fight in an 8-man tournament the next night. And literally get 6 fights in one weekend.
Wow.
That's why I have so many fights. And that's why so many of them are, I don't really know my exact record because that was common. I was living in the Quad Cities at this time. And I was just fighting so much, not a ton of money, $500 here and there, but I'm doing it every weekend. So I just never got a job again. So I never really made a conscious decision to say, okay, now I'm going to quit my job because I'm going to be a professional fighter.
Yeah.
I just never needed a job again because fighting, fighting in bowling alleys and stuff like that was paying the bills. So, and
That's
then I
pretty
got,
cool. And
yeah,
you talked about Pat Miletich. I mean, that guy is so important, when thinking about the history of MMA, and like, I don't think MMA would have expanded as quick. The knowledge, I don't think would have expanded as quick as it did without that guy.
yeah, for sure. I mean, he was one of the early pioneers that really put a lot of work into, or put a lot of emphasis into how much work you need to put in. Like understanding that you need to be well-rounded in all areas, and you need to have phenomenal conditioning, and you need to be, training at a certain pace, and you need to understand, yeah. So he was instrumental in him, and there were others along that same pathway, but obviously he was one of the earliest ones to do it right.
Yeah. I know you said you were mostly in Iowa, but did you ever have any promotions you went to? I've heard from fighters where they just didn't get paid, couldn't find the promoter.
Yeah, I had a couple of fights like that. So early on, most promoters were relatively honest, just because, I mean, there was a lot of money in the sport early on.
Yeah.
Well, not a lot of money in the sense that it is now, but like a promoter could put together a show. There was probably no licensing, no insurance. All he had to do was stick a sign on the wall and say, we're going to do fights. And he'd get, a couple of dozen fighters that would fight. He'd put together 10 fights, pay each fighter $500. What's that? I don't know, $5-6 grand.
Yeah.
Rent the venue for $1,000, and then enough tickets, people are going to buy enough tickets to pay for that. So there was money to be had. And so there wasn't really a reason to be scamming guys. And then fairly quickly, I hooked up with Monty, who was the best manager in the business. And he always made sure that, I was dealing with reputable people and things like that. I did have a couple of people, we'd fight for them, and I don't know what happened, but they couldn't pay. So they ended up getting their bond activated, and still not a lot of money, but it didn't happen too often. Monty took care of me.
Yeah. Shout out to Monty Cox, by the way. I swear that guy's got 100 clones, because no one coming up. I hear that name from everybody. That guy does so much work.
Well, and that's the thing, like, as a matchmaker and manager, but I guess more as a matchmaker, he set a precedent for putting together exciting fights, but still being honest with the fighters.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know how the sport works, right? I mean, if you've got a guy that's 10-0 and he's probably going to be a world champion someday, you're going to have a hard time matching him up with guys. And you need to be a little careful about who you put him up against if you're trying to build him, right? Well, the slimy promoter lies to you and says, hey, you're fighting this guy. He's not very good. His 10-0 record is all made up. He's fought nothing but bums. So, you can come fight him, and then you get destroyed because you got lied to.
Yeah.
Monty would never do that. He would say, look, I got this guy. He's really good. You're not the favorite in this fight, right?
Yeah.
This guy's got a bright future ahead of him. I don't want to go so far as to say you're going to lose, but look, you're definitely the underdog. But
yeah,
if you can go in there and put up a good showing, it will look good for XYZ, for other promoters. And if you do this fight for me, I will bring you back and we'll use you more. We'll get you some more fights. And so guys like, look, that's fair.
Yeah.
I'm definitely he did it to me. Of course I won. But that's the thing. Like, look, you're the underdog. You're not the favorite in this fight. You are fighting an uphill battle. You're fighting a guy that's really, really tough. I'll pay you well. Do you still want the fight? And guys like, yeah, fuck it. I want a challenge. I'm willing to risk losing. I'm okay with that. And because Monty was honest with everybody, guys would come back, and I would say, okay, look, this guy's not a superstar. You're fighting a guy that's got a couple of more, fights than you. I think you're the favorite in this fight. And like, okay. And you go out and fight, and you're like, okay, he was honest. That guy was tough, but I was a little bit more experienced than him, whatever. So just Monty being honest with everybody took him a long, long way.
Yeah, just that's one guy. I mean, there's a few guys, of course, but that's one guy that just everybody I've talked to has nothing but good things to say about Monty.
Absolutely.
Speaking of matching fighters up against other fighters, do you pay attention to the odds much? I admit, I do bet on some fights and stuff now, and gambling's kind of becoming part of our thing now. Not
Yeah.
everyone's comfortable with it though.
No, I don't really pay attention to the odds other than maybe to laugh if I feel like they're wrong, but I don't really pay much attention to the odds because I don't gamble. The thought of gambling money is terrifying to me. So yeah, I don't really pay much attention to the odds. But like, I'll see two fighters paired off, and I'm like, oh, I think this guy's a big favorite. I think this guy's, and then the odds, and they're like, okay, the odds kind of feel like I do. This guy's a bit of a favorite, but yeah, I don't really focus much on him.
Yeah, that's where I mean, I've only bet on a few because it just became here in Washington. But yeah, I am a little paranoid. It's like, okay, I try to cherry pick here and there, but God, I don't want to become a gambling addict.
Yeah.
It's like I hope we don't recreate some. I see it being legalized in so many states and draft expanding. It's like, ooh.
Well, that's where it gets tough because as soon as gambling becomes big, then that's when the corruption starts to seep in. People getting paid to throw fights and stuff so the gamblers can make money. That's where the sport really starts to suffer.
Well, that's another thought. And I don't know if you're familiar with the situation PFL had this year.
No.
So they had, I can't remember what they call it, but it's basically like their Contender Series. They were filming it only on an exclusive, one of the exclusive up and coming cable brands. Anyways, they did not advertise that it wasn't live up to the point that bookmakers didn't know this and people bet on fights that had already happened.
Oh, shit.
So
no, I did not hear about that. That could be catastrophic.
Yeah. I mean, they seem to have dealt with it pretty well. Of course, they went on several podcasts saying, this will be clear. We will never have fights again that we're showing that aren't live and things. But I'm like, man, I really hope they don't lose their
that could be bad.
or something. Because
that's surprising that could even happen. You would think that anybody involved in the sport, particularly like bookmakers, would know.
You would think.
It's not like they're stupid and be like, hey, PFL's on this weekend. Let's watch and book fights. Like, these guys are intimately involved in the sport. You would think they would know that fight happened already. That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah, I was really surprised by it too. And that's why I wonder if there's just like so many betting promotions out there that maybe there was a couple fly-by-night startups that just, I can't see DraftKings putting those bets out.
Yeah, that's possible.
Yeah, but I don't want to see people become gambling addicts either. And
yeah, for sure. I'm lucky I don't have that problem. I like games. I like playing games. I love card games. But as soon as I start to gamble on it, I'm like, the thought of me losing $1 is terrifying. I don't want to lose money.
Yeah. If the thought of you losing money brings you, more fear than winning brings you joy, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. I know a lot of people say they gamble because they love the excitement of gambling. It's not about winning money. It's the excitement. Like, no, that's not exciting to me. That's terrifying. That's,
That's what scares me because it does excite me. And I don't tell my wife this, so she luckily right now.
She knows now. She's watching your podcast.
Oh no, she doesn't watch my podcast. She hears enough of my mouth. Well, just training over there in Utah. There's a good group of you over there. I know Mark Schultz is over there now. Roland Gardner's over there training now.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's actually quite a few good gyms around here. Utah kind of flies under the radar for quality gyms, but there's a lot of talented guys here. There's probably half a dozen gyms that have high quality black belts that are doing well. So.
Yeah, I didn't realize just because we're talking about Utah, I brung up with it. I had Mark Schultz on the show. Of course, he was a great wrestler, but how obsessed he became with jiu-jitsu.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. I don't know a ton about him. I mean, I know obviously, what's commonly known, but
yeah, the Foxcatcher thing, and just not to go into it too much. I have my interview for anybody that wants to go more in depth in it. Basically, he said, the whole movie, The Foxcatcher, he says it's all completely BS. Almost.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
I didn't either until I talked to him, which made me feel more comfortable because I didn't like the movie.
So what I mean, did he kind of tell you what was the story? What did happen?
Yeah, basically a lot of it was, I guess he had a thing with when they were making the movie. Of course, they have Steve Carell, they have Channing Tatum, they have all these stars and stuff. And these producers, they start going to everybody, hey, the movie, it's not going to make as much money as we thought. Everybody's taking pay cuts, man. Channing's taking a pay cut. Steve Carell's taking a pay cut. We need you to take a pay cut. He says, dude, this is my story. He's like, I got one shot. These guys are going to act in 100 movies, as many as they want. He's like, I'm not taking the pay cut. All of a sudden, he's pretty much not invited on the set. And I don't want to speak for him, but this is just things that he said. And he said that he felt like that director really had it out for him after that. Kind of tried to make him look stupid, kind of tried to have some different vibes. He didn't say anything about, what happened to his brother. It sounds like that was pretty much for the most part how it happened.
Right.
He said the dates are all screwed up with like when he was living there and how he was recruited and things.
Gotcha.
But,
that's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's the movie. Well, and of course them pulling Gary Goodridge out of that and throwing a random Russian fighter in there.
Yeah,
that should have been a red flag.
Yeah, that was a bit strange.
I was like, dude, a lot of people know who Gary Goodridge is. Why would you do that?
Yeah, he probably would have played himself.
Oh, I'm sure he would have.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Gary's a good guy. He's open to just about everything. I've talked to him. I know he would have. Yeah. Pretty much. But just the training life over there. Does that?
Just running the gym and training. Like I've got a pretty obsessive personality. I guess anybody that's good at anything gets pretty obsessive. But so I have most recently gotten into competition shooting. So I've always been a gun advocate. I've always been a big supporter of the Second Amendment. But now the last couple of years I've gotten really obsessed with competition shooting. So I'm doing that constantly. So when I'm not at the gym training or coaching fighters or cornering guys, I'm at the range shooting or shooting a match. So
that's awesome. One of the things I've been very passionate about in my channel and talking with different guys is self-defense, with these police officers. I don't know how much you've shot with officers and things or roll with them.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's something that's worth talking about too. That's one of the big things I do is I run a program here at the gym that's free for local law enforcement. So I've got a group of guys that come in and train pretty regularly. But yeah, I'm a huge supporter of law enforcement as well. And you're right, they're woefully undertrained in both hand-to-hand and firearms. The majority of cops, they're so undertrained, it's ridiculous. People have this idea that cops are like one step away from special forces, secret agents, because that's the kind of crap they see in the movies. But
yeah,
man, that's not the case. They're so undertrained, it's ridiculous.
I realized the hand-to-hand self-defense part. I did not realize that there was an issue with the training and shooting.
Oh yeah, it's the same. It's the same level of undertrained. I mean, as bad as they are to hand, they're as bad, if not worse, at firearms. They are so man. Yeah, I can't even express it. Like I don't want to speak bad for the cops. They're for the most part, they're noble people doing a job that nobody wants. Everybody hates them. If you do your job well, one side hates you. If you do your job poorly, the other side hates you. So it's a thankless job. But the problem is they are just horribly undertrained, and that comes from the powers that be up at the top. They're pushed to do all kinds of crap that doesn't matter, which means they don't have time to do the things that do matter. They don't make enough money, so they're constantly working extra jobs, which means they don't have time to come and train. Most of them would, if they got to work a normal, 8 to 5 job, 40-hour a week job, most of them would come and train, but they don't. They go to their second and third part-time jobs after their regular hours are over. So yeah, it's ridiculous, the level of lack of training.
Well, I want to say thank you for training those guys. I think that's a huge service.
Yeah, I would encourage anybody with a gym anywhere to do the same, open it up to law enforcement and help them out as much as you can, because there is a big problem. They're undertrained. They're constantly under attack now. What was it, last year before? I mean, we were seeing stories regularly about cops literally being executed, being ambushed and executed.
Yeah.
Right? These are just average people with families that signed up to do a job to try to protect people.
Yeah, we unfortunately we had an officer that was just it's probably about 15 miles from my house. I'm in a very low crime area. This was a worse neighborhood over in Everett, but cop got executed, like you said, right in the Starbucks parking lot, midday, in front of everyone, and it's just just horrible. I can't imagine they're already putting their lives on the line, and then taking the abuse and the hate and.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Unfortunately, I'm in the Seattle area. I hear a lot of things that, really kind of make my blood boil, to be honest. Sometimes when people say it, it's like, you really don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
Sometimes when people are like defund the police, and it's like, no, properly fund the police.
Right. Yeah, it's just a mess. So I do what I can to help out. I've got a partner, one of the cops that I train with that's a firearms instructor, and we're trying to build a program where we can offer training to law enforcement and stuff. So, but yeah, it's what are you gonna do, man? Just chugging along and do what you can to try to help out.
Well, I mean, you're definitely doing more than your part in that service. That's awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
That's not to spend a lot of time on this and stuff, but I mean, I do look at a lot of the escalation and de-escalation and things. And I work security for, a long time. I'm not comparing it to being a police officer, but I did have 2 guns pulled on me. We've seen quite a few knives. And I mean, just the judo I had, I'll tell you, I probably should have been scared a lot more than I was, but I really never was. And there was never really anybody that if I got a hold of you, we're using gis and clothes. It's like, it doesn't take very long and you're on the ground.
Right.
The average person that doesn't know what they're doing.
Yeah. People don't realize, in competitive MMA, judo may not be as useful, but for self-defense on the street, man, you body slam somebody on their head on concrete, man, judo is one of the best for self-defense.
Oh yeah, I always look for the, if I ever think I'm going to get in a situation, it's like, I really hope this person's wearing a hoodie. I hope it's zipped up. I hope it's, I hope it's a really strong one.
Yeah, definitely.
So hey, thanks for doing this. I think we went through a lot, and I've been looking forward to this, all your experience in the sport. So I really appreciate it.
Like, I was out once, you were out once. How long did it take us to get this set up? It seems like we've been talking about it for like a month.
Oh yeah, my voice was completely blown. My views on YouTube, you'll see, were almost non-existent for almost a month, because I had COVID, and then right after you, like the day after you were sick, I had COVID, which turned into pneumonia.
Oh man.
But yeah, glad we finally got it done. Anything you want to say, just to people listening, or?
No, man, I just, get out there and train. Martial arts is for everybody, and I think everybody should be training all the time, whether you want to be a pro fighter or just have some fun. It's a great way to burn off some excess energy. And, I think everybody should be training. So go find a gym and train.
All right. And with that, we'll wrap it up. Thanks again, everybody. I'm Seattle Mike, Jeremy Horn here. We'll see you guys next time. As always, I love you. I respect you. And I'll see your fine butts later.